Hey guys, it's Mr. Fouch, your teacher for APUSH. I've really enjoyed this first week so far. I've really gotten to enjoy getting to know you guys, and I'll hopefully get to be able to get to know you even better uh, end of this week and next week. So, a few things. Typically, you're going to see my picture down in one of the bottom right or left hand corners, but right now, um, my camera's not working, so I got to get that fixed. I don't know why it's not. But I'm going to go through these parts with you. Each part of the textbook, I'm going to highlight on these areas, which is each section of your reading for the most part. And I'm going to do this in two parts. The first part's going to be loosening the ties through new imperialism, and then stirring the revolt will be the second video. So let's move on here to salutary neglect. Neglect is basically just leaving something alone without really helping it or supporting it for the most part. And after the Glorious Revolution, the parliamentary leaders were less inclined to tighten imperial control because they depended on the support of the merchants and landholders in the colonies. The colonists often felt stronger ties to England than they did to one another. Yet there were still connections still forged with the Atlantic settlement how they created roads and how they created a postal service and trade, and each colony developed their own unique economies based on region. They were self-government, and like I said, they were proud British loyalists. They still felt like they were British and not American yet. They had some of the high life expectancies, and they had high literacy rates that went along with that. So they were a relatively educated group of people. When they became more divided, the Albany Plan in 1754, which was developed by Franklin and provided for intercolonial government because they needed to have, Franklin believed that they had to have some cohesion and not just be all on their own. And colonists felt stronger ties to the mother country, but there were some connections that produced out of it, but not many. And they faced a rival with the French and with the Indians for the most part. With New France and the Iroquois Nation, the Iroquois Nation was dominant in the Northeast. Kind of think of like the Maine, the New York area, that whole part of our country today. That's where the Iroquois Nation was the strongest. And there was definitely new sources of conflict, and the English and the French settlements produced many tensions in the Northeast. Excuse me. To secure holdings, they founded communities, fortresses, and missions and trading posts. The middle ground of the interior were occupied by the French, the British, and the Indians, and the English offered the Indians by far the most amount of support and better goods in the market. And the Iroquois Confederacy was a defensive alliance and the most powerful tribal presence in the Northeast, and it forged a commercial relationship with the Dutch and with the English as well. Oops. Moving on here. We'll go to the next one real quick. So, the Great War for the Empire, also the French and Indian War. I mean, this is really the first major war that took place in the United States. And the first phase was in 754, and this was when colonists were mostly on their own with moderate British assistance, and the Navy prevented landing of larger French reinforcements. The second phase was in 1756, was when the French and English opened official hostilities in the 7 Years' War. And the third phase was when William Pitt relaxed his policies and reimbursed control and returned military control to the assemblies and additional troops to America. And finally, the tide turned in England's favor after a poor French harvest in 1756, and the French started to suffer many defeats in the hands of other British leaders. And the war expanded England's New World territory. It enlarged the English debt dramatically, and this is where we start the idea of then we're going to start taxing the colonists. And the English officials were angry at the Americans' ineptitude for few financial contributions during this time. So moving on to new imperialism. Oops. Oh, here we go. Moving on to new imperialism. after the 1763 empire, management was more difficult because and the British obviously put in the proclamation line of 1763, and you couldn't go further west, like we kind of talked about in class on Thursday. And in the past, they viewed the counties as terms of trade, but now people argue that the land and the population support and taxes were more valuable. Territorial annexations of 1763 doubled the size of the British Empire. King George III was determined to be an active monarch and created unstable majority in Parliament. He suffered some mental illnesses. He was rather immature and rather insecure as well. To prevent conflict with the Indians from settlers moving west, the proclamation line was set up to forbid advancements past some Appalachian Mountains, but that really wasn't very successful. This allowed London to control the westward movement, limit depopulation of coastal trade markets, and land and fur speculation to the British and not the colonists. So the British could go out there, but not the colonists. More land taken from the natives, but many tribes were still supporting it. In the proclamation failure, where settlers swarmed over the boundary, and new agreements basically just failed. Moving on here. The colonial response to all of this. The colonial... Oh, where am I? Hold on, Gypsy. Sorry, my dog wants to go outside. Kennel, go. Go. I'll get you in a second. The Sugar Act of 1764, the Currency Act of 1764, and the Stamp Act. Those three really started the whole phase of the British trying to input their power over the colonists. The Sugar Act tried to eliminate illegal sugar trade. The Currency Act allowed the use of paper currency, and the Stamp Act imposed a tax on all printed documents, from playing cards to everything, any legal document. The great political consequence was Anglo-Americans accustomed to self-government through provincial assemblies and the right to appropriate money to colonial government. This circumvention of assemblies by taxing public directly and paying royal officials unconditionally challenged the basis of any colonial power. So this whole time period, this whole new imperialism, was really about the British wanting to become more powerful. The king wanted to have complete control over what's happening in the colonies without giving the colonists any representation. So that's it for this first part. I'll go on and do another one here for the stirrings of the revolt, and basically the beginning of the Revolutionary War. So check out the next video. See you guys.